Hey, it's Chef Scubes. Welcome back to Scubeskitchen. Today I'm talking with Graham Elliot. From Michelin stars to Master Chef, Graham has been a culinary icon for many years, both in the kitchen and on TV. Before we get started, just a reminder that if you enjoy the show, don't forget to leave a review. And if you want early access to episodes plus exclusive monthly bonus episodes, consider becoming one of our Patreon members. You can find details at patreon.com/Scubeskitchen. All right, let's do it. Welcome to Scubeskitchen, Graham. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I see you're rocking the signature style today.
I am. Yeah, the white glasses. I always say with 6 billion people in the world, you got to stand out somehow. So
that's been the look of you for a long time. What's the story behind the white glasses?
So season 1 of Master Chef that I did in 2010, which is, it's crazy that's it's so long ago and the show's still going, but I wore white, blue, red, all different colors. And when season 2 came around, the producers said it's hard for continuity and stuff, can you just pick one color? And I decided white kind of matched with everything, and so that was it. But you know, the magic of television, you know, people identify you immediately, and they 99% of the time say, you know, it was the glasses I noticed. So I just kind of kept them. They become the logo, everything.
White's a good look, man. It makes you more tan too.
Yeah, exactly. Which right now I don't need as much as I did a few months ago coming here in Texas in the winter. It was definitely a change from Hawaii.
You're always so tan, man. What are you doing? You fake bacon? How are you getting so tan?
No. It's just, remember when we were growing up, you had G.I. Joe Zartan, where you put him in the sun, he turns colors right away.
I never had that.
Oh, dude.
Like the original color changer?
Yeah, exactly. You leave him on the roof and he like turns purple. It's pretty cool.
So you've also got these button-down shirts that I love. I saw a picture of you, I think it was on your Instagram. You're at a Rangers game. You had this like blue button-down. It had horseshoes on each side. And I'm thinking I'm like, that's got to be custom made. Like no one can find that shirt.
So I almost wore a different one with roses. And I got like all kinds. They're very, Mexican inspired. They call it Western wear. I think they're super cool. Again, it's if I didn't have the glasses, I would wear those, but when you combine them, it's like Wonder Twin powers, and it's just next level.
You should come out with your own style book, man. The Graham Elliot style, 2023.
7 people would buy it. It would be incredible.
The white glasses, has it backfired yet? I mean, it's been so long. Are you going to get to a point you're like, shit, I don't want to wear these white glasses. Like, I want to do red.
You know what's funny is because they're identifiable, I have to do like the reverse, like the Clark Kent, where you take them off. If I'm in the airport and have to go get McDonald's last second, because I'm sure it'll somehow me with a Big Mac on my face, and like that'll be somehow posted. Like I knew that guy was a fraud.
Yeah.
So
what Graham Elliot
take them off.
Let me see the ink on your arms. Let me see your tats.
So this is let's see, the skyline of Chicago, kids' birthdays. And then these are birds that can't fly, finding a way to overcome it. So it's a kiwi, dodo, penguin, and ostrich. These are all the states that I lived in with like a little symbol for each one. But what's funny is, you know, I always say chefs are failed rock stars. So I sang and played guitar in my like emo punk band, you know, and decided to move into cooking and have music be the hobby. But I have 0 food related tattoos. So these were before, the chefs kind of became synonymous with tattoos of certain items.
Are you done with your tats? Are you getting more? Nobody's ever done, I feel like.
No, I think once you do it, it's like it opens the door, and it's not a consuming passion, but it's almost perverse. You know, you see different things and, you know, you love it. And then for me now, because music is so important, it went from almost band logos to now, like, you know, certain lyrics and things that are important. Then you'll read a book and some quote just kills you, and you're like, I gotta have that somewhere.
I'm gonna share something. I'm gonna share my screen. You're gonna have to do some explaining.
Uh-oh.
Let me know when you see this.
How incredible is that? Come on.
So we're looking at I don't know if anybody remembers Garbage Pail Kids. Garbage Pail Kids there were collector cards from Topps, right? Was the company Topps?
Yeah. 86 to maybe 89, 90, and they were kind of done.
It was one of those things like Pogs. I don't know if you remember Pogs.
Of course, yeah. Weren't those like colorful communion almost?
Yeah.
Like they were just like the same size, and Everything
Yeah, little
else.
communion coins. It only lasted a short amount of time, but it had such a huge impact. I just remember my brother collecting these things, and then I saw you have your face on a garbage pail because I was like, how the hell did this happen?
So this is, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. So one of my biggest passions in the world is collecting like memorabilia, especially baseball cards. So I've worked with Topps. I've got two of my own baseball cards. One that's based on my first pitch at Wrigley. Another where I submitted a chef coat and they cut it out and put it on the card. So like you would get a piece of the actual, like sometimes you get a baseball jersey cut out. This was the chef coat, but then Topps brought back these garbage pail kids and included me. And I didn't realize it until someone sent it. I went and bought like 100 on eBay, and people are like, is this you that you're buying your own card? It's like, no, this is Joe Smith.
Would never do
Don't tell
that.
anybody. But yeah, so they always have two names. So it's Goopy Graham and Eyeglass Elliot. And I obviously contacted Topps and was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And they put me in contact with the actual artist. So I own the actual art piece.
That might be the highlight of your career right there.
I tell everyone that. I'm like, I don't care about any awards. It's the pop culture stuff that really matters.
Well, as any other great journalist has done, I turned to Wikipedia to get the facts on you because I'm sure it's 100% accurate. When was the last time you looked at
Yeah.
your Wikipedia site?
I don't know if I ever have. I mean, I've obviously like Googled myself, or I have Google alerts to see how many people are talking shit. But aside from that, I haven't looked at Wikipedia. So it'd be pretty funny if somebody went in there and like really tweaked stuff, like made it sound amazing, but it's probably not.
Let's go through your wiki and see what's accurate and what's
Okay.
not. And now I'm not saying anything confidential. It is all public information, just so anybody knows. The first thing I came across is that Elliot is not your last name. Is that right?
Correct. So yeah, so Graham Elliott Bowles. When I opened my first restaurant, I was wondering what to call it. I wanted it based around my name, but all three was too long. And then there's a chef in New York, John George Bongaricton, and he named his restaurant John George. And so I decided to do that. And then once TV happened, the producers and director were like, what do you want to be referred to as? Graham Elliott Bowles, or maybe Graham Elliott because that's your restaurant name. And so that's what I went with. And then from there, still legally my name, I never changed anything, but people only think of it as Graham Elliott.
It's got a good ring to it. And I get it. Like, my last name is Shaneman. Like, that's a terrible entertainment name. Like, nobody's going to I'm going to change my name to Chef Scubes legally.
I know. I was going to say, how did Scubes come about then?
Oh man, so pop culture. When I don't remember how old I was, maybe in intermediate school, the movie Big Daddy came out with Adam Sandler, and there was a little toy action figure called Scuba Steve, and my name's Steve. And so my friends started calling me Scuba Steve, which just got shortened to Scubes. Now it's to the point where if my wife calls me Steve, I'm like, don't call me that. Like, who the hell is Steve? All right, so that's number one. We got that correct. Born January 4th, 1977.
That's correct.
46. How does that feel? I'm 40. I'm still active. I can still do athletic things, but it did not happen until I actually hit 40. I've had this string of like things that have happened to me medically, not serious, but just little things that's just a reminder like, oh yeah, I'm fucking old now. And then I can see how getting closer to 45 and then over that, it's like, man. So how does it feel?
It's weird because I think mentally, for some reason, I've been 27 for like 15 years. That's kind of how I always feel, the age I am. And I saw something the other day. It was funny. What was the movie where it's Steve Martin and they have a ton of kids, Cheaper by the Dozen, something like that.
That sounds familiar.
Anyway, tucked in shirt with like a bad tie, and she's wearing these clothes, and it's kind of like, this is what moms look like at 60, but somehow late 30s, 40 is what people considered that's what you look like. And now you got guys at 60 wearing flip-flops and shorts with sunglasses, and their hair's dyed tips. I feel that nobody wants to evolve into the role that their age is supposed to be. Like no women are turning 60 and then bobbing their hair into like little gray curlers and looking quote unquote old. So mentally it's one thing, but yeah, physically, like I like to skateboard, and I'll get out there and have that muscle memory and then realize that my weight and size and age, like your knees feel it for a week and a half later and your back hurts. And it's really interesting how physically it goes. Like if you had an old car and you used to drive at 100 miles an hour and now you do it and it goes 30, you're like, damn, I know this thing used to go quicker. What happened to it? You know?
It's just so weird that way because you look in the mirror and I don't see anything different even when I physically look at myself. But I know when other people look at me, they're like, oh yeah, some mid-40s guy.
No, I was always like, oh, you have good skin. And like they're like, how old are you? I'm like 35. They're like, no, you gotta be mid-20s. And now they're like, yeah, no, yeah, you look old. You're clearly your age.
We got to do it gracefully. So you were born in Seattle, it says.
I was, yeah. Don't remember anything about it because again, dad in the Navy picked up and moved all the time. So was there for maybe, first year of my life. I've gone back, obviously. Yeah, that's the interesting thing of moving around all the time.
I was in the Army. Navy, yeah, those families move all over the place. So your dad was active duty?
Yeah, 32 years.
Wow.
So
He put in some time.
yeah, he did. He was a diver in EOD, which is explosive ordnance disposal. So he was jumping out of the back of helicopters and into the ocean, taking apart mines, in the Persian Gulf, and pretty cool in hindsight.
Is your dad still around?
Yeah, still married to mom, and that's
Wow.
pretty cool. Everything in life, when I look back, like any guys that you talk to, it all boils down to like some kind of dad issues, whether you're trying to one up them or please them or whatever it is. So it's interesting. At certain ages, you have different relationships, and then all of a sudden you get older, and there's a mutual respect and things like that. So I think that's pretty cool to see.
For sure. How did he feel when you first wanted to get into cooking?
Well, I went to 3 high schools and then was actually in the hospital for depression, which caused me to lose a year. So I was working in the kitchen at 17, busser, dishwasher. As soon as I turned 18, got a GED and then went to culinary school. And I think he was just excited that I was going to do something and was supportive of it. But I think even me getting into it was less of this is an artsy way to express myself using incredible ingredients and more I can put my knives on my back and go to Portugal tomorrow and knock on a door and get a job somehow, and be able to get paid using my hands.
Did you always appreciate ingredients versus just, frozen food?
Yeah, I think I didn't have, the mom that stirred sauce for 6 hours that her grandma taught her. My mom made beef stroganoff with egg noodles and ground beef and, cream onions, cream of mushroom soup and
Hamburger
dishes
helper,
like
man.
that. But hell, oh, dude,
That was the
I love
best.
the helper. The glove is like the best sous chef ever.
Sunny D and hamburger helper.
Yeah, purple drink and then shake and bake on the pork chop.
Yes,
But
sir.
I think that moving around, being in the Philippines and family from the Chesapeake Bay and seeing ingredients and being able to dive or go fishing and pull something out, cook it right away, that was always exciting. So I love the fact that you can eat snails, you can eat frog legs. Some people cook snake. Like that's the coolest thing in the world. Like I was always blown away by the fact that every culture does the best with what they have, and embracing that. So never realized that actually taking cooking and moving it into the action of a kitchen as a real job, that never occurred to me. And then as a dishwasher, again, you see that energy in the kitchen. You're like, I have to do this. There's no other job I could ever do.
Well, that's such a unique experience getting to travel around the world as a young person and just seeing all those different cultures and like grabbing different ideas and things. And, a lot of people I talked to that were from military families hated it, hated growing up that way. Like you said, going to 3 high schools and never having friends for very long. But then in hindsight, they're like, yeah, you know what? That was actually a pretty cool experience. Do you feel the same way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love being able to reinvent myself. You're in Hawaii and you're wearing like I literally have a photo with like the red, yellow, green Rasta Tom with like pretending I had dreads underneath with like the beaded thing. I had the African pendant,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and then you move from there to Maryland and you've got camo on, with like you're doing chew with a hat with like a fishing hook in it. And then you move to Virginia Beach and you've got a buzz dyed blonde and you're playing like Blink 182 stuff, like constantly being able to adapt to that situation. And I think that that's really tied over into how I work in the kitchen. You know, I always say if it's not broken, break it. So we finally made this incredible, steak frite dish. And now that everyone knows how to do it, it's like, well, what if we did steak tartare with like potato chips? So that's still steak and potato, but we'll do, a little Bernaise ice cream. So it melts as you eat it and you get all the same flavor. And it's like, as soon as we learn that, I switch it up again. And it's only because I get bored constantly, like really quick. I need to keep switching lanes. And I think it's hard for maybe someone that went to the same school for 12 years and had the same friends and parents and dinner at the table and Sunday church. I never had one of those things. So I think I love to bounce everywhere.
It worked. I mean, geez, you've had quite the career, man. So in 2004, again, this is wiki knowledge.
I was going to say Wikipedia.
This is Wikipedia career now. But hey, so far we're like 2 for 2. So in 2004, you were the youngest chef in the United States to receive 4 stars from a major publication.
Right.
Do you remember what those publications were? I have the 2 here.
So major cities, we're looking at like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, now there's LA, DC, things like that. But the only 4-star chefs you had were maybe Thomas Keller, Danielle Boulud. Again, we mentioned John George. In Chicago was Charlie Trotter. And these guys were all late 40s, 50s. Yeah, and I had just turned, I think, 26 or 27. And it was the Chicago Tribune, Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago Magazine, North Shore Magazine. So those are all the main ones in Chicago. So to come in and be able to do that and not be at that same level, recognized for doing food that was at the same caliber was really cool.
Yeah, what's that like for a kid? I mean, I'm not a kid, but 26 years old, you get recognized for this. Are you just feeling like you're at the top of your game, like, fuck yeah, I can do anything?
No, because I had left Trotters and then moved to a town of, I think, 2000 in Vermont, where it was a 15-room inn or bed and breakfast. And they were a gorgeous property, gave me the freedom to do whatever I wanted. I ended up getting Food and Wine's Best New Chef award, which allowed me to go back to Chicago to take this position. But I literally, I think my first week had to get picked up in an ambulance, taken to the hospital because I thought I was dying, but it was panic attacks, which I'd never known. I was convinced every night that a critic was coming in, that this isn't what you do, it's who you are. My whole life is based on this review coming out. And then I would find out tomorrow the paper's dropping and it's going to have the review. And I would stay up till 6 and at 7-Eleven waiting for the paper to get dropped off. And then you open it and it's like 4 stars and you literally fold it back up and you're like, okay, now we got to focus on the next thing. And so you never get to enjoy it. You achieve it and then, you move on to whatever the next thing is. So
yeah, I've had this conversation before, and if you get to the level that you're at, it's like being a pro athlete, and your window for competing a lot of times isn't that long, just because of the stress and how crazy the competition is. But you do see these chefs like yourself that have been doing this years. How did you get from having a panic attack and going to the hospital to kind of mellowing out a little bit and just kind of taking it in stride?
I feel once those things are achieved, a lot of people tell you, well, now it's about maintaining it. And it's like, yeah, kind of, but if you win an MVP award, you don't need to win it 6 years in a row. It's kind of like, you know that you achieved this greatness or whatever it is, however you measure greatness. But I was happy being able to do that across the board and consistently keep those ratings, but it didn't keep me up anymore. It's like, what's the next thing? And that's where TV kind of fell into it, because I absolutely loved everybody. I think, why do you get in front of a camera? Why do you get on stage? You want people to love you and tell you how great you are. And that's kind of what keeps you going, And of course, you still love the actual craft of what you do. But, to cook in a restaurant with 4 covers where nobody knows who you are, that's not cool. That's not exciting. So I love being able to do the food I do. But at the same time, like you said, like an athlete, someone told me that if all chefs are pilots, you have a few that get to this Blue Angel level. And I feel like in Chicago, that's what I was, one of those. And then Alinea opened, which is Grand Achatz. And that's when someone said there's like him and Renee at Noma and Thomas Keller, where they're astronauts. And there's maybe like 5 or 6 on the planet. And that's when I realized like, no matter what I was doing to get to that level, for whatever reason, it was always kind of out of reach. So that was heartbreaking for a while. And then I realized, all right, I've achieved these things. And what else do I want to be able to do that maybe those guys can't do?
You opened your first restaurant and it was self-titled, right? Graham Elliot.
Right.
How did that naming process go? I picture like a room of people coming up with like these fancy names, and then some dude in the corner was like, you know what? Just call it Graham Elliot. And you were like, yes, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I always wanted to call it primary because I love the idea of art. We would take cooks to the museum, have them get inspired, try to find their own voice. And you're like, okay, look at Van Gogh and look at how Pollock started this way and then evolved into this. So, you got to understand what you do. And I was like, well, primary, it's red, yellow, blue. It's everything reduced to its essence. I like this. But then talking to Charlie Trotter, who was kind of my mentor, he told me, I don't know how many restaurants you want to open or what you're looking to do. I know your TV stuff, et cetera. But I think your first restaurant defines you. And it's you want a plate, the dining room, the everything. And I recommend you have your name in it somehow, whether it's bowls or grams or whatever it is. And so I just called it Graham Elliot.
When you were awarded, the restaurant was awarded 2 stars, 2 Michelin stars?
2 Michelin. Yeah, Michelin eventually came to Chicago, got a star, and then 2, and then 2. Cool.
Your first year you were awarded one?
Well, they came, I think, the year after. Yeah, and we got one. And it's funny because it was never, whereas the job before, that's all we lived and died for was to get these reviews. And then when we opened Graham Elliot, we went and bought 200 white plates that cost $6 each from IKEA. You got one glass that served water, beer, wine, etc., one fork and knife. So that idea of tablecloths, $20,000 China budget, 12 different wine glasses, servers, dishwashers, bartenders, chefs, every single person wore a t-shirt, jeans, and Chuck Taylors, so that, if you're the dishy, you can go and help at the bar, and the bar person can go and help run food. And so it's like a band, you're all equal, no real hierarchy. So we kind of went anti every type of award, reviewer, etc. Once we got a star, we were like, oh my God, like we can do this without even knowing it. And from there, I think the ego kind of creeps in. You're like, well, now we got to get 2. Now we got to switch stuff up and really start doing great stuff. And then you get 2 and you're like, I can't believe we didn't get 3. Like, I hate my life. We got to get 3.
Worthless. It's interesting that you mentioned that you went a different way. And in, when was this? 2008?
Yeah.
I mean, the
best year to ever open a restaurant.
Maybe in January.
Yeah.
I can only imagine in that time that was not that popular to be trendy like that, right? I mean, you kind of started this thing where, we're just going to dress casual and see what happens. Did you get a lot of like negative feedback from trying to do that?
I think the biggest thing was working at the Peninsula Hotel, which is 5-star, 5 there are no tattoos. There's no facial hair. It's very professional. And to go from that to opening my own place and being able to say, I've always kind of been going against the grain and telling people to F off, and this is what we're doing, and that's the style. As soon as I knew I was opening my place, that's the direction I went. Because of the previous years of winning awards and doing 20-course tasting menus, all of a sudden we opened, and then Laurent Gras opened a place called L2O, and both of us were award-winning chefs, and I'm doing this food, and he's doing the opposite. But reviewers are still being like, Graham Elliot versus Laurent, whose cuisine reigns supreme. And you're like, no, like, we're not even in the same sport. You know what I mean? Like, we have nothing to do with this. But that expectation, I think, was always there.
So going back to 2008, you got on the 40 under 40 list in Chicago alongside Barack Obama, who then you cooked for later on.
On his birthday.
His birthday. You cooked for the president on his birthday. Do you know what birthday? Because it's listed on here.
It was. I think it's 49th.
His 49th. That's, 3 for 3 on Wiki. How did that happen? I mean, he was the senator in your state.
So when he won, he was state senator, then he won U.S. Senate. The night before he went to D.C., he came and ate at the restaurant I worked at the Peninsula. And that was really cool. And I mean, that you talk about charisma. I mean, he walks in the room, it's like Axl Rose. Like everyone's like, oh, look at like rock star, and you knew that there was clearly something there. And I also had cooked for Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who ended up being chief of staff for Obama for a while. Then he became mayor of Chicago. I basically found out that when I was landing from LA, we couldn't land because Air Force One was landing at O'Hare. Air Force One lands, president's gone. We were able to land. My phone has like 50 calls and messages. And I find out that Secret Service is at the restaurant. Rahm Emanuel's there. Oprah's coming, etc. They check the phones. There's people across the street on the roof. There's this whole thing. And I was like, I knew immediately with all those calls, I was like, dude, I just saw like his plane pull up. So now I'm like trying to race to the restaurant because I know they're on their way. I get there, they let me pull through the back, Secret Service is there. And then, got to cook for him, and the whole restaurant sang happy birthday to him in the dining room. It was really, really cool. And he came in the kitchen and wanted to get a photo with everyone. And I think some of the people that might be employed there that weren't technically legal were kind of scared and he was just like, I want everyone in here. So we got this like United Nations photo in the kitchen of every type of person just with him. And it was exciting, but also, you're working on all these other cool things. But in hindsight, I think that's something that, talking to my parents and family, they feel is way cooler than doing like a TV show. They're like, you cook for the president on his birthday. That's really cool.
That's really special.
Yeah.
And so this was at the Peninsula. You were executive chef there?
When he won the Senate election, but this was at Graham Elliot at my restaurant.
Oh, this was at your restaurant?
Yeah.
I got that confused. See, all these people came to your restaurant.
Yes.
Obviously, that was a public event. What was the restaurant like in the days after that?
Super busy. But again, this is like kind of pre-social media. There's some people on Facebook, but it wasn't like now where it would go viral and some big thing, But yeah, a lot of people clearly came in and wanted to see what was up. I went to the table and served the food, and he immediately commented on the glasses. And I was also wearing a hat, and he's like, look at this guy's style. It's amazing. So that was pretty cool. And then I got a picture with him. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Didn't cook for Trump or Biden, huh?
There's so many jokes I can do. No, I never got the chance.
I teed it up for you, man. I left it open.
I know. I don't know if you noticed this, but like if I said something about how Biden's the greatest president ever, people on Instagram will love me, but everyone on Twitter will unfollow me, and vice versa. That you somehow said, well, I do think this is great with Trump, and he did this, same thing, I'll lose 10 million people or whatever. Like, there's no way to win because each one of these outlets has their own type of follower, if you will.
And it's amazing, and that's something that I learned, is that your fans on one platform aren't your same fans on the other platform. They don't cross over a lot of time.
No. I post a picture of a giant steak, and there's comments on Instagram like, why don't you go plant-based? Then you post a picture of a roasted carrot on Twitter, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? Like, where's the steak? So it's true. It's incredible.
It's so ridiculous. Do you like social media? You're pretty active on there.
I am. I do. I love it. Love interacting. I always tell people, I don't have a PR person, social. I mean, I have nothing like that. So if they come to the restaurant or they comment on something, like I'm always like, just message me. Let me know if you're coming in again or any questions, that kind of stuff. And it's amazing because it's a great equalizer. And I've been able to message a musician or an artist, somebody else, and just, comment or like message and just be like, love this. Whenever you get to Chicago or Fort Worth or Hawaii, I'd love to cook for you. And they're like, that's amazing. Yeah, our band's coming through. That'd be so cool. And you're like, wow, I literally it would have been 10 million stuff. And now I just messaged like Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, and he's going to come in for dinner. Like, that's super cool.
And I think Instagram in particular has been incredible for the restaurant industry, and not only for the restaurant, but for the chefs. Because if you have a restaurant that picks up a following, then the chef tags their name onto there. And it's just a great way to interact with guests and bring brand awareness.
I agree. And I feel that you are your restaurant and vice versa. I can't see the food that you do in your kitchen and then your other stuff and not have it be the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, people expect to know who the chef is behind the food. And now it's very transparent. which is exciting to really know who that person is. It's like they make the most gorgeous food, and then the next picture is them like holding up their kid with their wife at the beach, and you're like, I love this dude. I really dig it. Even if the food came out cold, I'm still like, I'm a fan. That kind of thing.
The personal connection, I think, is really
Yeah,
important, like you said. You've also been nominated for 3 James Beard Awards.
that's right. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Can never clinch it.
I don't think most people understand the James Beard process compared to like the Michelin process because it's just more,
Right.
there's more information about it. Just being nominated for James Beard is like the highlight of a lot of careers compared to Michelin because it really focuses on you as a chef. But explain the process for the James Beard.
So you're nominated by past winners, writers. I guess now you'd call them an influencer, but not in the social media sense, but someone that really is a big player. And they break it down by region: New York, the Southwest, California. So we had all of the Midwest, and now it's Chicago and Great Lakes that kind of have their own things, but it's best restaurant, best chef, rising star chef who's under 30, best wine service, things like that. So I got 2 rising star chefs when I was under 30, and then best chef Midwest. Those were the 3. And then again, it's kind of like the baseball reference. You might have an amazing season, and it happens to be the season that Barry Bonds crushes everything, and that you just don't have a chance. But you would have won any other year. So it's like me versus David Chang, or me versus Corey Lee, who is the chef de cuisine of the French Laundry, under Keller. And any other year it might have been different, but those years, you're not going to beat David Chang when it's you versus him. Again, just to kind of be part of that whole deal was really cool.
Well, and I think aside from your ability as a chef and your food and your restaurants, just as many people, if not more people, know you from TV because you've done a lot of shows. How did you get into that aspect?
After winning the awards, I wanted to do TV stuff. So in more competition. So I wrote to Food Network wanting to do Iron Chef. And after like 5 reach outs, finally got invited. Then was asked to do Top Chef Masters once I had my own restaurant, which was all for charity. It's, all the big name chefs, so it's not as competitive. Did 2 seasons of that. And Top Chef wanted me to be a contestant on something. I told him, no, I'll be a judge. Eventually, I had worked with Gordon at Charlie Trotter's when I was 20 at an event, and he reached out to me saying they were doing a new show called Master Chef. Would I want to come check that out? So went to LA, did this mock type of cooking judging deal with me and Gordon and Joe Bastianich in a hotel room where people were bringing us food, and we'd go back and forth. And I had my restaurant. We were busy that weekend, so I flew in one night and out the next day and was like, if this works, cool. If not. And they pulled me aside and said, if we make this call, it's going to change your life. Like it really will. Like people will know you, etc. And I was like, all right, great. And the next day they offered me the gig, and I had to start in like 5 days. So I ended up being in LA for almost 2 months filming the show. And you don't realize it while it's happening, how big it is. So it's on Fox, which is a network, which means every episode's got $1 million budget. There's 12 cameras and 50,000 people involved. And now when I go and film a show, there's like 2 cameras and $10,000 budget. And you know what I mean? You don't understand it. Like you're on the Yankees and you're next to Gordon, / Babe Ruth, and part of this huge thing.
What's it like working with Gordon Ramsay? He's like this larger than life personality that everyone assumes is just a huge asshole. But in my experience, the people like that on TV, you get to know them in real life, and a lot of them are like the nicest people.
Yeah, it's amazing the manners that he has. Like if you and your wife walked up, or your kids, he would be the first to literally dive up, offer you a seat, grab some snacks or candy for the kids, sit down, stare you right in the eyes, asking what your story is, how are you? Extremely engaging, and probably the hardest working person I've ever been around. I mean, all chefs, right, work a lot, but up at 5 a.m. to work out, and then heading into the show on his, phone calls, gets there, I've worked at other shows where judges just kind of show up and do the job, but he's also a producer with the show. So it's sitting down, going over every kind of line, every opportunity and possibility for this challenge, how to do that. And then on lunch break, FaceTiming all the chefs in London and all over the world. It just never stops. And he's the kind of person that, like, if he broke his leg, would just like walk it off and act like it was all right for now. And then later, when no one's looking, would deal with it. But it's kind of like a general that you're in the military and it's like, we're going this way and that's the deal. I think 99% of the people would fall in line and just be like, yes, sir. He just happens to be a chef, but he could be in any other profession and would be that same kind of way. Like walks in the room, like a Michael Jordan walks on the court. Everyone has to stand up straighter and like work harder because he is going to work that hard and call you out if you don't.
So you've been competitor, you've been judge. Did you like being a competitor on these shows? Some people have mentioned that when you get on these shows, it takes away from the passion of cooking food because of all of the media and the cameras and all this stuff, and they just feel it was rushed and they didn't get their best shot. How did you feel competing on these?
Having competed and then judged and seen how things work, I would never compete again. And I'm not saying that things are quote unquote rigged, but obviously what's the show's main goal is to get another season and to get ratings and et cetera. How are you going to do that? This person's really, really great at cooking, but super boring and not attractive and not engaging. We can edit and make this other dish look incredible. So we're going to kind of look to see how we can make the next challenge highlight that person. I go on, I compete. I'm the cool tattooed guy with white glasses that's fun. And it's like, he's cool for now, but we really do think this person has more of this or that. And again, I'm not trying to like pull back a curtain, but there are obviously a lot more things at play than who made the prettiest, chicken dish today.
Yeah, so, entertainment value.
Yeah, of course. And it makes sense. So you're making television that just happens to be based around the energy of a kitchen and cooking, creativity. It's not a sport where you made 3 goals, you win. That's the deal. It's completely open to interpretation. It's not black and white, right? So your souffle fell, but tastes incredible. That person's looks great, but there's no sugar. It's going to be up to the judge to really decide what the deal is, and then the viewer at home is going to agree, because they're not listening to American Idol or The Voice. They're not watching Dancing with the Stars and seeing who can dance. They see, the food and whatever the judge says.
That's why I love the Great British Baking Show. It's got to be like
everybody's favorite. Every chef loves that show, but it's so boring. It's not boring, but it's. All right, you tell me why you love it, and then we'll go from there.
It is boring, but in like a cozy, I want to watch this in Europe on my little comfy couch kind of show. Like my wife just yelled out, "It's not boring." It's her favorite show. I just love it because it's just got bakers that, some of them aren't great, some of them are just cook at home or whatever, but it's just like the flow of the show, the presenters, the judges, it's all just kind of chill. Like if I just want to hang out, it's like listening to a podcast. I just want to chill and watch a show.
Yeah. Like having it just on in the background. And you're checking it out when you want.
Graham, you don't like the show, do you?
No, I do. And it's funny because whenever it's like, I wouldn't seek it out right now and watch it, but if it's on, I'm like, I think it is the personality and the people and like the judge. Who's the one that looks like Keith Richards?
I don't know his name.
So I'm watching. I'm like, yeah, I can see this, but it's amazing that every chef and then like family member, that's their number one food show. Like they love that show. So they clearly clicked on something. Whereas when we've done other cooking shows that I've been a judge of or helping produce, we would never do a baking episode because a TV episode is 44 minutes. Nobody wants to watch an oven door shut and then you pull it out and try to fix it and that's it. Like we want someone to cut their hand off and then they burn this and they have to redo it and then their friend jumps in and like it's got to be go. And maybe that's the difference between like BBC and a lot of the US things, but the baking show is way more toned down as far as you have 3 seconds left. Oh my God, are they gonna
I don't buy it because it always gets done. You're telling me that they only have 3 seconds left, but every time it gets done. So that's to me and the average viewer, I think that's where we're like, you know what? They must be giving them extra time or something.
No, they don't give them any extra time. But what happens is, again, if there's 10 of us cooking and there's all these cameras, each one are on us, we're running maybe 2 minutes left and you're wiping and you're like, oh my God, and then grading whatever. When they have all that footage and they go and cut it all down into like one little episode movie, they can take the part of you looking like you're not going to get it done wiping the plate that you did 5 minutes earlier. But it's like three, two, and you're like, oh, and it's like, okay, time's up, even though that was filmed 5 minutes ago. But it's all about splicing. I mean, I remember being a contestant on that Top Chef Masters, and we're sitting there getting judged, and someone made a joke, and I started laughing. At the end, when we're standing there and they're eliminating, they send someone home, and then they show the part of me laughing, like I was laughing at them leaving.
That's
And
messed
it's
up,
like,
man.
that's the most bullshit thing I've ever
That's
seen.
messed up.
But it's like, yeah, but it's like, well, we're gonna make a show.
And then they
So,
took to Twitter and they were like, Graham Elliott hates people.
oh, you have no clue. Well, I guess you do have a clue, but it's
People are terrible.
really responded.
So social media does bring out the worst in a lot of people.
Twitter more so because you can hide behind a fake name and whatever, and you're just doing your thing. Whereas Instagram, someone that has their own account with their family pictures and their name and they're less apt to go for the jugular. Like I would
Yeah.
always get like, you're so fat, I bet you're gonna have a stroke tomorrow, and
Oh, that's nice.
your kids, whatever. Like it was insane because you sent home their favorite person.
Yeah, I can
That was
imagine as a
wild.
judge, you get some harsh feedback. But everyone I've ever watched a TV food series with, everyone says the same exact thing. They're like, I want to be a judge. That's got to be the world's greatest job, being a judge on a TV food show.
I love it. I love not judging so much, but encouraging, getting people excited about food, teaching. I love saying, like we're opening a French restaurant right now, and it's a lyonnaise salad, and people are like, oh, that's cool. What's in it? And then you tell them, and then you say it's from this region of Lyon, and that's why it's this. This is what grows there, and this is how it's made, and this is how we'll serve it and break the yolk so that it almost turns into the dressing for the sub. Like that's one little dish from one little region in one restaurant. You extrapolate that, and you've got sushi and Thai and Spanish and fish, meat, veg, whatever. It never ends. Like it's like music. You have a rap band, and then you get into rock, and then you get into ska, and then jazz. Like you're always just scratching a surface. So to be a judge and get people excited about that, that's my favorite, especially with the kids, to let them know this is a beautiful creative outlet, whether you're the quiet introvert or huge extrovert. And I always say I do the compliment sandwich where it's like, this is the coolest looking pork chop I've ever seen. Next time I would actually cook it. You don't want to serve raw pork, but man, it's so creative. And whereas I think maybe Joe or Gordon are much more apt to just pick up the plate and throw it in the trash in front of them. And
Yeah, you judged, what was it, Master Chef Junior? One of the kid
yeah.
ones? That must have been really
4 seasons,
cool.
yeah. It was super cool. It's amazing. And what's neat is because I have three boys myself, but seeing like the dainty, girl that you think would be wanting to garnish cupcakes, and she's like chopping up, the pig's head with a hatchet and putting it on the grill. And the same thing, the big giant football tough kid over there making like beautiful pastry, dots with his little bag and whatever. And you're like, see, it's universal. You'll like a magnet be drawn to the food, style that you really identify with. And that's what's so fun. No right or wrongs.
I love that. And I think for a long time, and when we were growing up, your high school little thing that said like, what do you want to be when you grow up, or what career
Right.
counseling, like being a chef wasn't exactly like the cool thing to do. But now there's just a lot of publicity around it, a lot of outlets for social media and these shows that bring young kids on. And I think it's just great for the industry and really just for creativity in general.
I agree. I feel like, you and I growing up were different ages, but, soccer, gymnastics, painting, whatever it is, those were all different outlets. And now cooking is one of those where it's YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, whatever. What does chef mean anymore? Is it someone 14 hours a day in the kitchen, or is it a content creator? Is it a writer, a critic, a blogger, someone that goes in and eats and then reviews those things? Or so many people on Instagram, plate and make gorgeous food, but they could never replicate that 200 times a night in a restaurant. But they have no interest in it. They're not like trying to fake people out. Like that's what they do. It just happens to be ingredient. And so that's what's interesting is it's opened up to a billion different avenues for people to express themselves through food or cooking and travel. That's what's exciting.
You moved out of Chicago, right? Where do you live now?
Yeah, so now I'm in Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. I lived here years ago, worked at the mansion on Turtle Creek with Dean Fearing. Spent the career in Chicago, grew up some in Hawaii, and then moved back there after, the restaurants closed and COVID happened, and went through a divorce. So was there for about 2 years and just relocated 6 months ago here to Texas.
I heard Michelin does not come to Texas.
They do not yet. There's great restaurants. There's a lot of diversity, especially now with Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston. It's obviously a big state. Everyone knows that, but there's a lot of opportunity to highlight that. And then when you also look at why Michelin goes to places, because you're selling that book and that guide and travel, and a lot of people are coming here. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did more of a Southwest, Arizona, Texas, that whole area as a guide.
The poor people of Chicago must have been real pissed when you left. Is this right? I couldn't believe this. Again, Wikipedia. Did the mayor of Chicago give you your own day? Do you have a day named after you?
Of course, yeah.
You have a whole day.
See, the same thing. It's Graham Elliot Day, but it's one of those you're never happy. So I got it, but I didn't get a parade. So I'm like, this thing sucks. This is if I don't see people twirling batons in the air, and I'm like, this
needs to be a bank holiday. God damn it.
All restaurants are closed.
Yep. I'm not working on Graham Elliot Day. The hell's wrong with you?
It is interesting how, you put your name on a restaurant and then immediately you go from being the street cred chef that won these awards to, I was the chef culinary director of Lollapalooza for 10 years. So it's cooking for all the bands and you're hanging out with Eminem and all of those things. And then MasterChef happens. So you're filming 3 months a year and you're on TV, and then you're doing these events and a cookbook, and you go from the cool indie local Chicago chef to like, F this guy, we're going to go support so-and-so now. I also, I think I kind of went through like that Trump phase on Twitter where I would always fight back, which most chefs do now, but somebody writes some horrible long review and then you call them out equally. But I think, I definitely burned bridges with the blogger world over there.
How do you feel about apps like Yelp? Reviews have gotten to the point where they can crush a restaurant.
I went through my whole fuck Yelp phase where like, that's my hashtag and just calling people out. And I got kicked off Yelp twice, once for challenging someone to a duel in the back alley of the restaurant.
Yes.
I swear to God, I did. I was like, I will meet you tomorrow at 10 paces. But
no call, no show.
What's amazing is we were talking about, we're pitching a show, and the idea is, so if Joe Smith wrote on Yelp how your steak sucks and you this and that, you go and like the Publishers Clearinghouse, you knock on the door of their house and you bring ingredients and challenge them to cooking that dish.
Oh my God, I love that.
Home turf. So, you know what I mean? So
that is fantastic.
I always thought if you were some lawyer or someone and it's like, I've eaten at all the best restaurant, and every Yelp review is, I really wanted to like this place. And, this is how they let me down. It's the same thing. I want to go knock on your door and like hire you as a lawyer for an hour and be like, fuck this guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He was 2 minutes late. I couldn't deal. I think that everything should be tit for tat. It's like a ratings ping pong game, or I guess now it's fucking pickleball, but that's the idea.
Lollapalooza, the music festival. You are the culinary director. How did that happen?
So Perry Farrell and Charlie Jones, the guys that really put on the festival, came in to eat. They love the whole idea and vibe of the restaurant. Because again, we're one of the first ones that are playing like punk and hip hop and everything. Every cook and server was able to contribute a couple songs that they loved at the moment to the playlist. So it was just a very eclectic deal. We all chatted and they said, we'd love for you to do something and help oversee the food, because like most festivals, it's here's a burger, here's a hot dog, and we said Chicago is this great indie city of restaurants. We should highlight all the chefs and local places, and then they do a few dishes that are like their signature things. That's what we did. And then I was able to also cook for all the headlining acts, which was really, really exciting because then you get to also go on the stage on the side and watch. So
What a sweet gig for 10
it was so
years.
cool.
So what are you doing these days? It looks like you're a partner of a restaurant group, FARout Hospitality.
Yes. So that's here in Fort Worth, and we're going to be expanding to a couple other places. We're out in Midland, which is West Texas. Eventually go to Houston, some spots. So, we've got like a sushi place, a steakhouse, a French restaurant we're opening, a barbecue joint, 7 different concepts. So that's really exciting to have a good team where each one is great at what they do. So I'm not the recipe person. I'm not amazing at all of the costs and numbers, but I can oversee or come up with 100 menus, uniforms, playlists, websites, all the creative. Again, like a band, putting all those people together on their instruments that they thrive on. It's been an amazing fit.
This
Yeah.
has been a lot of fun, Graham. I appreciate you being on the podcast. Let everyone know how they can find you and what you'd like to share.
Yeah. So if you go to Instagram or Twitter, it's at Graham Elliot, GrahamElliot. Also Facebook and TikTok, it's the Graham Elliot.
I appreciate this. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, brother. Take care.
You too. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.